boat is ready to launch, but I'm not going to launch it this year. You're probably disappointed. Sorry about that, but me personally, I'm not sorry. My life is amazing traveling around in the van, and this is one of the places where I go. This is the Ashley National Forest in late September. It's between Flaming Gorge Reservoir and Vernal, Utah. I'm in the northeastern part of Utah. I do want to explore Puget Sound, and I plan on doing that next year, summer of 2024. There's nothing that I really have to do on the boat before I launch. It's pretty much ready to go. So I feel confident that I'll be launching in summer of 2024, and we'll get back to you then. In the meantime, here's a tour of the boat. Hope you enjoy it and have a great rest of the year. The bottom of the hull has no holes in it except where the propeller shaft goes through, and that leads into a compartment that is isolated from the rest of the boat. The keel is bolted on. Each of these are automotive grade bolts, and they're covered with coal tar epoxy. This one is extended so that the cover that's going to go on it will be able to be bolted on. There's a total of 32 bolts on each side for a grand total of 64 bolts. Each of them has less than 50 pounds pressure on it right now. The keel is off the ground at the moment. If the boat was completely sideways and this keel was horizontal, let's imagine that the force is multiplied by 4, which it wouldn't be. But let's say all of the weight was 4 feet below the center line, then that would mean that each bolt is holding 200 pounds, and that's easily doable by automotive grade bolts. The guys in this yard are absolutely amazing. They took this whole boat and they moved it in over top of the keel and got it within a 1/4 inch of where all the bolts needed to go through. So the rest for me was actually really easy. It only took me like a day to get it all lined up so that the bolts go through, and I was able to just crank on the bolts to get the keel to go up, along with a jack that I had here which was pushing up on the end, and then same thing in the rear. Super easy actually, and that's all because of the expertise of the guys in the yard. This is the rudder. I'll show you the inside later, but this just rests on some plastic bearings. I'm planning on taking this out every year, so I'll be able to keep an eye on those. The weight of the rudder isn't resting much on here, and I'll show you why that's the case. There's a bearing up on top that holds all the weight. Underneath this lid, which is bolted down, is a plastic bearing. The only purpose that plastic bearing is for is to keep the rudder from getting pushed upward, so it doesn't bear any weight. The weight is all borne by this motorcycle bearing on the head of a motorcycle frame. The steering goes through and rests on these tapered bearings, and that's what keeps it smooth and bears all of the weight of the rudder. This is just a cover. There's a gap here, so I wanted to cover it and make sure that the water flows. These are the cooling tubes for the engine. There's another set on the other side. The engine's right inside of this compartment. These cover the cooling pipes. And then here's the propeller. It's exposed so that I can easily take weeds and anything else off of it. Here's the cutlass bearing. Super easy to get that out if I ever need to. If the water level is about here, then I can step on here and be dealing with whatever problems I've got with the propeller. I may put a protection around it, but I haven't decided to do that yet. If you think about it, outboard motors have their propellers exposed all the time, and that seems fine. So I'm hoping that I never hit anything back here. This is the dinghy. I'll have to show you how that launches later on. There's my dog. These are the steps on the stern. Easy to go up. I bring my dog up these steps every day, twice a day, and they're easy to use, very stable. So the sail falls down through these ropes. So that's how it raises. Want to see the back? Both these hatches can be opened at the same time. This is the V-berth bed. These are the windows. I've got those removed just because it's summer and getting a nice breeze through here keeps it cool. These are the other side. This is the wire for the mast light. It goes into the wood, and then I covered it up with fiberglass all the way up to the top. This is a tree that I got out of the forest. It's a white fir tree. I would prefer better wood, but that's all I had access to at the time. So that's what I used. This is plywood. It's holding in the mast. Fit pretty good. Everything's been secured for the last year or two with it on. Actually, it's only been on there a year. I used goop to make the mast watertight around its collar, and that seems to have worked quite well. There was a little bit of water below the mast, like let's say 1/4 inch when I came here in early June. So that's not bad for a whole winter of leaking a little bit. You could see that it weeps down these cracks, and I just can't fix all of that. It's good enough for me. This is the battery pack for the outboard motor. This is a blade that I cut out of flat metal, and then I twisted it with my hands, and it works. This whole shaft moves, and this is where it mounts on the dinghy. I'll show you it working on the dinghy next year. And this is a bicycle motor that I converted for the purpose. Here's the generator I've been using for the last 3 years to power all my tools. Here's the tool compartment. It's got all the stuff I need to build with. And then basically the rest of this floor stores stuff. This is something the Coast Guard will be looking for if they come on board your ship. This isn't the only option. You can use flares, but it's an alternative. It's battery powered instead. And then here is a sound making device. There's also a whistle. I've got 2 of those. That's another Coast Guard required thing. This could be it on its own, but you can see how small it is. It's not going to work for very long. 10-pound fire extinguisher for a boat that's of my size. The other Coast Guard required item is this sign that says you can't throw trash in the water, and that one that says you can't dump your oil in the water. Huh, who knew? This will hold rope. This one is holding some rope. I don't need all of this. Probably could cut it off just like 5 feet from here, but I'm leaving it extended just in case I want to double up on the sail, because the sail is quite heavy. I might want to put a pulley system in there and reduce the weight by half. Here's the compass. You're supposed to not mount it near anything metal. I don't see how that's possible on a metal boat. This is the Garmin chart plotter. I'll be mounting it right there. That way it can swivel if I want to. I can just be looking at it from midships. And then, of course, here I'll be able to easily see it while I'm navigating. These chart plotters are $300. They used to be 1,000, but no one wants to bother with all these buttons anymore. There's all these touch screens where you can just expand or move it any way you want. So that's easier, but I prefer cheaper. So I got this brand new. Here's the shower. Not much to it really. This is just temporary. I wanted something that I could use. And then in here is the engine compartment. As you can see, it's isolated from the rest of the boat. And this is the only place that has a hole through the hole to let the propeller shaft out. By the way, this is also required by the Coast Guard. You need your boat number somewhere that's on a permanent surface where it's easy to see. Let me get a light. Hopefully that's enough light for you to see. Here's the MD2B, made by Volvo. You can get regular oil filters for the oil from O'Reilly's AutoZone. Here's where the coolant goes through. It gets pumped up to here, and it goes down through the pipes that are outside, and then it crosses over on that pipe to another set of cooling tubes, and it goes into the engine. And then here is the fuel tank. I put it up above the engine, hoping that gravity would help to feed the fuel to the engine. Of course, it has this lift pump right there, and that's the job of the lift pump, is to feed the engine with fuel. But I thought, can't hurt to let gravity help. I forget what these are called, but this is a rubber piece that helps deal with any vibration or changes in the orientation of the engine relative to the propeller. This is a PSS something. It's a shaft seal that holds the water out. Boat's ready to be stored for the winter. Actually fall, winter, spring. These lines are to tell the people with the crane where the strap goes. My boat's a little bit unusual because in the back here it's got the cooling pipes and the covers and the rudder right there. So the strap has to go here. They already told me they've got a system where they can compensate for the difference in height.